Inflation came in lower than expected, and with that, the DXY or dollar index dropped, and a lot of money flowed into the equities or stock market and also into crypto. We've seen some of that. We're going to do some in-depth price analysis today with Paul. We're going to look at what's happening with the dollar index because that impacts how much money flows into crypto, which is what I'm here for. And today joining us will be Paul from Dfinity, who's got 30 years price action analysis experience. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Now, if you're looking for crypto news that doesn't have context, or you're looking for panic selling or FOMOing in, you can find that in a lot of places on YouTube, but you won't find that here. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realized the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable crypto investor, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. Now, the reason I created this channel is I was once new to crypto 6 years ago, and back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a network or group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed important things like investment cycles and projects and the pros and cons of those projects, the risks and the guesses upside if that came together well. I didn't find that, so we created it. A lot of what I found is YouTube channels that would talk about whatever had pumped massively already and was probably about to retrace. And so everyone in their audience would get real excited and buy after the massive pumps and then get dumped on, sometimes even by the channel themselves. And it was sad to see incentives are often misaligned. So I wasn't finding what I looked for. And so I created it, and then we created it. And I say we because it's not just me anymore. It's a family of rainmakers, and you can see them here in the chat. You'll see them in our free Telegram group. The link to that is below, and you will definitely find them in our private Patreon group that allows you access to the Rainmaker private Discord. And the Rainmaker private Discord is where the best discussion and best info is. There are also other benefits too. You will have to join us to find out some of them. But some of them we actually often have private interviews with some of the project heads where they discuss things they can't discuss in a public forum. Do you know I'm not a financial advisor? Paul is not a financial advisor either. Now, if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button. Strap in for this show. Help me welcome Paul from Dfinity.
Well, it's great to be here, as always, and especially this week. Finally, the market seems to have realized inflation is going down. And remember, we talked about Jerome Powell and him trying to keep rates higher for longer. The market will do what the market wants to do. Don't fight the market.
Yes, and Dfinity, who Paul works for, has some really big news. And in just under 2 hours from now, Manu from Dfinity is going to be joining me again for another live stream on some big things that Dfinity is doing that will allow institutions and more big money to be able to flow into crypto easily and quickly. So definitely join us for that. You will want to hear because these are the kind of roads that need to be built for mass money to be able to come into crypto. And Dfinity is part of creating that solution. So we definitely appreciate Manu lending you to us on a weekly basis, Paul. The family has absolutely loved your insights. And, a 30 years background in price analysis is incredible. I benefit tremendously from it.
Well, thank you. It's very, very nice to say. But like you, I love the markets, and I really enjoy talking to everybody and watching the markets and talking about them. So that's really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, let's jump into since the inflation rates came out lower than expected in the U.S., we've seen the market do some crazy things. What are some of the things you're looking at?
Well, again, it's the main topics of conversation are the equity markets, how interest rates are moving, how the dollar's moving in relation to interest rates. And in that regard, if we look at a chart of the Dow Jones, we are now back up towards getting towards the resistance. This big range is really catching people out. They do not like it at all. The bears are getting killed every time they short, and the bulls, if they buy the breakout, the market just whips back. But I've maintained that this is a more of a bullish setup than a bearish setup. So when this resolves, it should resolve into a very strong upward trend. And along the way, there has been some really strong news to essentially say that the market should go down, and the market's been short. So part of the reason why I've been contrary to that is because of sentiment. And usually when sentiment is very bearish, the market goes up. So putting into that, we've also got the mix of where interest rates are going. The market's been waiting for the interest rates in the US to come down because of interest rates have been up for so long, and because energy prices have been up, and because the dollar has then become so strong, it's impacted the US economy. And whether it's by design, by accident, or whatever reason, it feels like the economy's been slung back like this huge sort of arrow, only to be let go as we go into next year, which is an election year. And the market is just getting ready for that, in the same way that Bitcoin halving, nothing happened, and then boom, off it went. And I'm not saying that obviously the halving's still next year, but the market does not wait for the actual event to start reacting to it. If it knows it's happening, it wants to get in there first. If there's something happening and people want to buy the latest iPhone, they don't wait until the day, they start queuing overnight. So human behavior is what we're really looking at, and that is now being factored in. So on top of the fact that the US markets are looking good, or looking ready for a breakout, the Nasdaq's doing very well as well, leading the way up. That's very close to its all-time high. It's in shouting distance. Imagine that, saying that a few weeks ago. You'll notice also that all the bearish news seems to have come off the table. I mean, I know things in the Middle East are not good at the moment, but it gets filtered out, and the market focuses on the next thing, like almost like the new shiny toy that you put in front of its face. It starts running towards that, or that's more like the media, I should say, as opposed to actual people who are following the markets. So equities are looking like they're going to break into new highs. That's going to force people to cover if they haven't already. So either they'll double down and wait for Jerome Powell to say something and hope that interest rates really do stay higher for longer. Most likely they won't, and there are so many cracks appearing in the Fed's kind of strategy that's manifesting itself in the markets. I think it shouldn't be long before, again, people could be talking about interest rates going lower, because remember, interest rates moves take a long time to take it in effect. So all the interest rate rises that have happened throughout the year haven't impacted the market yet. So if you think about that, if inflation is falling now and we got a weaker non-farm payrolls print, both of those things suggesting that the economy is going back, into reverse a little bit, which would mean more money printing is needed, or looser conditions, and potentially, at the very least, interest rates aren't going up anymore, which is what the market was worried about. So other things that are interesting in that regard is gold, as it bubbles below this massive resistance. It's reacted a bit, but it kind of reacted before the announcement, so it had a big move. It's actually retraced a little bit, which is funny how these intermarket moves play out. But I think this will get picked up again, and we'll see a break of the new high. I think the same thing with silver, which is going sideways, but this could be construed as a big triangle. But the base metals is another interesting thing. We've got copper here, which is doing nothing really. It's going sideways, and copper is an important metal because it's used in construction, it's used in car manufacturing, especially electric vehicles. So if there's going to be another upswing in the economy, you'd expect copper to go higher. That's been painted right into a corner, but I think it's getting ready now for another breakout. I thought there'd be a breakout before. I was wrong about that, but now more things are falling into shape, into place as well, that suggests that it's going to happen soon. So 10-year yields drop very aggressively. We're looking for a top around 5% or on this leg. And it's reducing the burden of interest rates on the economy. And that's a really great sign for risk on. Means there's more money to put in risky places. 4.35%, massive level, really big. So probably bounce off that, I would have thought. Not sure how much it could get below that unless there's some problems in the system that need to be worked out. And what I mean by that is if interest rates are at 5.25%, these yields are much lower at 4.55, as you can see. So going much lower than this, there'll be a bit of a mismatch. I know it's 10-year money. We could look at 2-year money, which is still below 5%. So something has to move. Either short-term interest rates have to move down, or this may move up to meet it. But there's definitely something there that could be regarded, I suppose, as a as some form of intermarket play, waiting for rates to go back up if you hold it to maturity. But we shall see. The environment is changing, and it could be that interest rates go down for a negative reason. Market absorbs it, and then we get the big rally. But whilst all this is happening, the dollar, as a final comment, has made its top. Remember, we were talking about this topping pattern here, and it had a rebound just to put some doubt into your mind. It had a really strong rebound, and now it's come off this move here, very aggressive on the number, on the CPI number, and it's having a little retracement. Those who shorted it are buying back some shorts, and it may go sideways again. But if this is where I think it is in the setups, this should be, I think, part of a much longer move down, which will encourage, again, more risk taking and more of the same. So as far as I can see, it's pretty much steady as she goes, and this scenario should continue until next year, barring any sort of short term, which may be major. I mean, short term moves can be very big, barring any short term interruption to that strategy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do drop interest rates in the coming meeting. They hike them farther and faster than any time in history, which even caused some banks to fail because the amount of treasuries, long-term treasuries that they were holding, and the value of those long-term treasuries, the book value went down tremendously, making the banks essentially insolvent. So it created its own problem. And you could say, well, the bank was dumb to buy the long-term treasuries. Well, they were. Also, Janet Yellen, who was the U.S. Treasury Secretary, was saying, we don't see any inflation on the horizon. And so they may have been listening to her, thinking she knew what she was talking about. And I don't know why she missed it so big, because I was like, I can't see anything but inflation going up. And I would love to think that the U.S. Treasury Secretary knows far more than me. So why was I right and she was wrong, and she has access to more information? I don't know.
But I don't think. Sorry, I was just going to say about. I don't. It's very unlikely that there would be a cut in the next meeting. It would just be because they will transition slowly, or they should do.
And they
you don't know what they're going to do these days.
Next year, bringing it down right in time for the election and trying to juice things so that they don't get so much political pressure from the politicians who like. Well,
I mean, it would be unusual for the stance to change that quickly just because of saving face more than anything, which is not the right thing for the market. You should be doing the right thing for
something they often do.
Yeah. So higher for longer is what they were saying, or what Powell was saying.
And if they revert that suddenly, it's like, oh, then what happened?
The sense was that he would hold rates there. Speculators be damned. He didn't care. It doesn't care whether it causes turmoil in the markets, whereas previous, and that's why I've been talking about. I don't normally talk about that stuff so much because I like just looking at the charts. But what was really interesting about what he was saying was, whereas previous Fed chairs, Bernanke and mainly Greenspan going back, every time the market went down, they go, oh, let's cut rates, let's help the market out, let's do this, let's do that. But he was trying to say, I don't care what the market does. I'm going to hold rates where they are. And that's, effectively playing chicken with the market, and I don't think usually the market comes off best. So we shall see. I mean, in many ways, the data may justify what he has to do in terms of moving or either staying stable or moving rates down. So it's not. You could argue it's not a question of him being actually wrong. It's just a question of that was his strategy, and then quite rightly he should change his view when the facts change, which is what one should do. But they're a bit more political than market traders, or I say market traders doesn't sound right, does it really? But you know what I mean. People who understand that when you're losing, you've got to cut your position and that sort of stuff. Understanding market risk. So that's why I think he may hold it just for a bit, and then the phase will turn, gently ease the market into the idea that rates might go down. But the next meeting is going to be very interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Shout out to those in our chat. Chris.
Hey, Chris.
What's up, Paul and Jay? Thanks for coming on. DC Low. Really cool picture with his profile there. Web Zombies says, what's up? Go time for the Bears, says Justin. You're probably talking about the DXY there.
Yeah.
And favorite part of the week, says John Steves.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks, John.
I did not see this. Justin says, did you guys see the clip of Jerome Powell say, close the effing door? I didn't. Did you see that, Paul?
I didn't know. I don't follow it that closely, but that's funny. It's funny. I mean, I have some sympathy for that. We could get caught out with the comment that shouldn't be on air, but that is funny.
I've never said such a comment in the last 20 seconds.
Do you want me to explain what that word means? Because you probably never used it in your life.
What's that?
I'm joking. I'm joking about the F word. I'm just
yeah. No, I use a lot of swear words these days. There was a time in my life I didn't use a single one for decades. But I joke, I'm not Catholic, but I joke with my Catholic friends that I gave up not swearing for Lent. And they're like, wait, it doesn't work that way. And I'm like, I know.
Well, I hear it's a sign of intelligence. That's what I've read. I don't know.
The F word is actually Old English that means to plant. I have not heard that before.
And we learn every day.
I know. I love actually learning things like that. The Queen just wanted to check in on lunch and see if you've converted Paul to a fell OMI homie. Oh yeah, Lori Brenner, one of my good friends. Paul, actually, we've looked at OMI on this channel a whole lot and talked about OMI a ton, actually more than almost any other project. So he's waiting for the charts to look right. Maybe we can look at, a fellow, that makes more sense. Maybe we can take a look at OMI after we look at some of the other things on the agenda, because he just waits till the price action looks right and then he's in. Yeah.
Just a very quick comment on that. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments coming up from Justin. The latest Marvel film is an absolute mess. Apparently, I've not seen it. I've just seen the comments, and it doesn't surprise me. And I don't know if that affects OMI. I really don't. But it's not good. It's not good. And it could be the nadir. Usually, as we were talking about last week, when it's as bad as this, they suddenly go, look, okay, we got to stop with this woke stuff. We just got to make some money, start firing people who are making these decisions, and find someone who's going to make some, good ones.
Better decisions, like we talked about last week, like bringing Iron Man back, one of the best top movie series ever, and they let Iron Man die, and it's like, wait. Yeah. But they do have 10 zillion universes, within the greater metaverse. So there's infinite ways that they can bring him back.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they can do it. They've done it before and they'll do it again. There's definitely ways of doing it. And it wouldn't even matter if they cast someone else and just pretended the story had continued somehow. I mean, they do it and everyone will go, oh, that was a bit bad, but okay, Iron Man's back. Let's get on with it. It's and enjoy the film. So, I mean, you're suspending disbelief every time you go to the cinema, aren't you? So it may cause a little bump to do it in a crude way, but once it's done, isn't it? So but anyway, back to the markets, I suppose.
Yeah, let's jump over to some Bitcoin analysis. What are you seeing with Bitcoin?
Right. So the breakout we were looking for to the upside on the where's my head today? There we are. There's the breakout from this consolidation was pretty sharp, and it's gone up and come straight down again. So the pattern I would say is worked, but I normally like this to be a bit flatter, and I think we're going to see a bit of volatility now. Now, I don't think this is changing the trend, but there's just quite a lot of heat around it and quite a lot of interest. I think 42 is still the target. I would personally, if I was trading it, I would be rolling stops up and waiting to be taken out. And then if it gets back down to 30, this 3180 breakout level here, looking to rebuy. So that's overall big picture, nothing's changed. Still bullish, still 42,000, and then perhaps even higher. What's more interesting is how everything else has rolled up. So there wasn't much movement in ETH, if I could just jump to that quickly, and that's now basing. So this is a really nice line of resistance. We got resistance. It's touched it bang on. That's 2143. See, 2143 touched it bang on. That's resistance from here as well. So this level is massive. If it can just pop through there, that should have a nice squeeze. So we might actually see Bitcoin taking a bit of a breather and things rolling into some of the altcoins, or ETH as a major, but some of the altcoins. Solana's already gone. Obviously, we talked about that as it was going, but between Bitcoin, I think maybe a bit of a consolidation. Perhaps we'll see some good news come out, be the final move. Then things will die down a bit. But overall, trend is still up. Still want to go with that, and yeah, looking for higher prices into next year.
Let's take a look over at ETH. ETH has been interesting as Bitcoin's been running up so strong. ETH had been lagging for a long time. Let's take a look at that because it recently broke 2K and had quite a nice run.
Yeah, I just excuse me, sorry, I just mentioned it. It was this was the support on the way down, which was at 2143, which matched here as resistance. So 2143, 2143, and it's just run into 2143. So massive level, and it's hovering just below it, which is what I like. So as a setup, as a technical setup, this is where I would like to buy with a stop. And if it goes through, you should really wait. I would, there's different ways of playing it. If one was to buy it here, if I was to buy it here, there's a greater chance it will fail and come back down. But if it takes out this 2143 level, it might go really fast. Now, you could try and buy it on a break of 2143, which would be more in line with what the setup says. But you may be chasing it and it might move quite quickly. So it's one of those things. But I think from a long-term perspective, this is still basing out. It still looks like this is a base, and everything that's happened recently has just supported that further. But Bitcoin's definitely been leading the way. So there is some scope for ETH to catch up. Even if Bitcoin still outperforms, ETH still should, have a fairly decent move. And it's been a good move so far, but there could be a bit more to come.
Yeah, it's been nice to see ETH reacting better. I expect a lot of the bull run hasn't really come. We're just in the early stages of the bases are likely in, and we're in that turbulence heading into a bigger bull market. Let's dive into some of these altcoins so we can also get to some viewer suggestions. Let's take a look at Algorand. What are you seeing with Algorand? It is a higher market cap coin. That it got really, really cheap during the bear market, which was amazing. Not quite as cheap as it once was.
Yeah, so I bought some of these a while back and just sort of held on to it because it sounded like an interesting coin. And like you say, coffee money, nothing. I've not even looked at it today or for a while, but it went up a bit and then it's come down in this trend. But it seems like most, altcoins, it's having a bit of a rebound. So, it broke the prior low here, which wasn't a great sign, but it wasn't a continuation of the trend. It broke it and then went back up again. So would I buy more? Probably not. I might look for something else, but I do still think it's got a chance of going up. These moving averages are coming into cross, which is a bullish signal. There's not a major base here, but things have moved out unusually. Other markets have moved out without forming much of a base. They just break the trend line and off they go. So if I could only trade this, it would be, yeah, I'd have a go at buying it. But I'd look at some other things. There's some other things around that I find a bit more interesting, but this is definitely an interesting chart. And what might be happening is an inverse head and shoulders. We've got the left shoulder. This could be the head, comes back for a pullback and then goes up. But the critical level is obviously this low. We don't want to see it take that low out. If it does, I think that'd be a pretty bad sign. So yeah, if I could only trade this, I'd rate it as a buy. If I had a choice of other markets, I would, and that's for me, I would probably look to buy something else. But it could be just a slow burner.
So for you, it's a wait on this. You would just look at other things.
I'm going to say a buy.
You said buy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say a buy. And if while you're just doing yours, I just got to step out just for a second, but I'll be back in a moment. Okay.
All right. Let me share my screen. Let's see. All right. So a lot of what I look at is I look at the price, but I take in some other factors because I have different segments of my portfolio that go into different things. And I'm not actually holding a lot of blue chips, and blue chips are relatively at present, I consider them tokens over $1 billion market cap. And now granted, 1.1 billion, it was recently under that as it hit lower prices here and has come up some. Let's go to logarithmic scale. So we could see it's gone up about 50%. Now, what often happens when it goes up like this is at some point it turns around, comes back and retrace a little bit, and it makes kind of a little bit of a smoother turnaround often. So if you're thinking of getting into algorithms, you can either, those looking to buy it now, you can buy, and it may continue before it comes back and retraces. A lot of times, like last bull market after the bear market had bottomed and the bull market was starting, and a lot of the great buys that I was scooping up during the bottom of the bear market were gone, then I would often look to enter things after a retracement. And this isn't in a retracement, it's in just having actually done a pretty substantial run since October here. So in October, it bottomed out at just under 9 cents, and now it's up 6 cents from there. So it's gone up over 50%. I would rate this as a wait, just how I think about things. So for me, it's just a wait. I'm not holding a lot of the blue chips anyway. I do like Algorand as a project, and I think they have a promising future, though. A lot of, even my Rainmaker family has higher levels of blue chips than I do. And this is one to strongly consider for those looking for blue chips. And do some research on it and see if you're as bullish on their future as I am. So cool. I did rate this as a buy when it was actually cheap like that, because that's how I buy. And sometimes making that buy, sometimes it means I end up catching near the bottom, and sometimes it means it goes down further. But at present, it's just kind of like a wait. It just ran up like 60%. That's usually not where I enter in. But it probably, if I'm right, and then it has a really bright future and the bull run comes, this price will one day seem very cheap. That people will be like, what, 14 cents? Oh, why would you ever pass that up? Cool. Let's take a look at the next one, which is Drife. And this is one I followed for a long time, since I think before they even launched their token. Their token now has been out for quite a long time. And their token was doing absolutely nothing for forever until all of a sudden it started seeing some action.
Right. Okay. So, Drive. let's see if I have a feeling that the chart there was, it was updated, then it stopped. Excuse me. And then, yeah, I think I had a different chart there. That's why I just switched over to this. Yeah, so I remember this being in a downward trend. Then we got a breakout, and then it's was consolidating, looked like it might go up again, and it's just come down again in this. It's been in quite a consistent bear market, even though the project might be interesting. So this is the first sign of life actually for it, and it's very similar, I suppose, to Algorand. On this particular chart, if I get the longer term chart, we can see there's definitely more history to this, and it's been in a major downward trend, which means it needs a bigger base before we can talk about the definite end to the bear market. But a good sign is that it's made a double bottom, which was triggered through this high here at 3078. And whilst it's above that, I think it's a short-term buy. There's plenty of resistance around here, though. That's where I would really like to see it break. Then we're going to be going for this level here, which is prior resistance, which is at 0.002. So if we're getting anywhere near there, if you excuse the pun, it should really be motoring. But for the moment, it's just the first few steps into the recovery. So I personally say, if I'm looking at the markets I'm looking at now, would very much be ones that are longer term. And if I'm going to look for a longer term play, I'd like to see a longer term base. So I'm going to wait with this one. I'm just going to say it's a wait for the moment. But there is some good signs that things are turning around, and it's definitely one that we're going to talk about again, I'm sure. If I had a speculative hat on for a short term move, I'd be inclined to go for a buy, but because I'm not, I'm talking more longer term. For me, I think I would just wait for the moment.
Yeah, especially after it's bounced back so strong. It is a point where it hasn't confirmed that it's going to continue running. And so it's kind of at an interesting midpoint, right? Would you say?
Yeah, it's just that it's made a short-term base, but it's just that there's a lot of suppliers, I see it, around here, because there was definitely some buying going on in this move. And so we're coming back to that again, which might mean people want to either get out at flat,
Take some
um,
profits.
or take some profits from this short-term move. So that's why this area could be a bit sticky. The market will tell us, because if it goes through it really cleanly, then it will suggest that it's got much more to go. So that's why it's a bit of a trickier call than some of the other ones. Um, but the resistance points are clear, and it does trade relatively nicely from a technical point of view. I mean, the trend when it was down was fairly smooth, apart from this move. And you might say, well, okay, the trend was down. That's not great. But when you're looking at a chart, it's a question of its trading signatures. Some are very volatile, and some are smoother. And the trends and the moves here seem to be relatively smooth at the moment. Obviously, dynamics change, markets change, but so I'm just going to wait, hopefully, for this whole area here to be a base, and then I'd be more confident about a long term buy. But it's making the right noises in the short term, which is what you want. If this wasn't moving up, there'd be a problem, because everything's everything's moving.
Yeah, I'm hopeful about the future of Drife. It's one of the projects that launched kind of in the last bull market, I think towards the later part of it. And so with it having a bunch of token investing and the bear market, its price has just fallen off a cliff, like most everything that launched back then. And that can lead to really good accumulation points with the strategy that I do. One of the risks that you're weighing is this company going to have enough reserves to survive into the next bull run? Because if they do close up shop, well, then you might have been buying what felt like a really good price, but then the company fails and it goes out of business. And then you lose your investment on there. And that's one of the risks you take buying newer companies in a bear market. But if they survive, then they can have massive, massive gains. And you saw this with OMI last bear market, that their price got absolutely savage. I think their market cap went down into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then it shot up to over $1 billion market cap. And so the returns were just astronomical. And so Drife, will they survive into the next bull run? I hope so. I've had on the CEO a number of times, and she's really sharp, and I hope they survive into the next bull market. They're a competitor kind of to, well, definitely to the ride sharing programs, so like Uber and Lyft. Do you need the blockchain for that? Not really. That's one of my concerns. However, their use case for the token is really interesting in that franchises can open up. In order to hold the franchise, they have to stake a certain amount of tokens, which they can either buy themselves or other people can then stake them and possibly earn a yield on that, depending on whatever agreement the franchise has. So that's a really interesting token use case. If their technology allows them to allow riders to ride for cheaper and drivers to make more money because there's less overhead costs, which is what their narrative is, well, that's a really good narrative. That is, if they can make it into the next bull market, it'd be a lot easier for them to grow and get expansion, as everyone's talking about crypto. Makes it easier for them to get a bunch of news coverage as everyone's talking about crypto, and really give their business a huge boost if they survive into the next bear market. Now, most of the projects that were going to fail during this bear market have already failed. That doesn't mean they can't fail from here to when the real big booms of the bull market happen, but it just means that they've made it this far, and so they're getting close. It's not a bad price at that current price. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong window.
I was trying to say
StreamYard to click over. It's not a bad price at the 0.00099 cents. It got really cheap here, but also the chart was a little bit scary for a lot of people in that it went to lower lows and people were worried that it would go to zero. And that's why a lot of people miss the bottoms, because they are really scary points. Now is some indication that it's had this run up. It hasn't broken some of these levels, so it's not even confirmed that it's going to run up from here, but it definitely is showing some price action. So for me at this price, it's a little bit of a wait. It's not a bad price overall. The market cap's still under $1 million, which is amazing. If it goes to $1 billion market cap, that could be 1,000x from here. So that's why these low market cap projects can do so well if they do get some traction and survive into the bull market, is their market caps just get so depressed. All right. What does this say? These levels make me want to sell foot pics. Okay. Yes, I wish I had really sexy feet and could start a, Rain OnlyFans where I take pictures of my feet. I don't think it works as well for guys as it does for hot girls, though. Let's jump over to the next one. Take a look at NTX.
So UNET is the coin we're looking at here, and I think we may have looked at this a little while back. By a little while, I mean a few weeks ago, potentially. We had a very nice technical pattern here. For sure, as it was doing this, I would have been bearish, and it was only this breakout that would have changed the trend, and possibly only this area here where you get this consolidation, which indicates another leg. The thing is, we've got the strong move, the consolidation, the next strong move. It's now in correction, and it's corrected near this resistance. That clearly would have been the place or around this zone. I mean, perhaps not as much as it's gone through it, but this is around the zone that you'd be looking to see how the market trades, because it was the prior resistance point. It's obviously going to be key. The other problem with this chart, I would say, is that there's not a whole lot of data. There might be data somewhere else that maybe we have to have a look on one of the other systems. But when you only have about a year's worth of price action and it's all pretty much within a contained range, it's quite difficult to make a call. You really need a few years, to be honest. But on this particular chart and some form of trend or technical reversal pattern, whereas this is dead in the middle of a range. And the only thing I could say about this is, by proxy, if the markets are going to go up, then it should go higher because everything else is going up. Why not this? It's already moved as well, which is a good sign. So it's trading with the market, or maybe even have led the market. So my view would be, I would wait. I wouldn't feel confident enough to just buy it and shut my eyes. On a speculative day, I could do that, but that would be more just because of the way I feel about the broader market rather than this one on its own. So for me, it's definitely a wait, but it wouldn't surprise me if it has a correction and then goes right back up again. And I'd like to explore it and see what it does as it gets near this prior high.
Yeah, fantastic. NewNet made me a lot of money. I didn't buy back at these bottoms, though. Gosh, I missed a good opportunity there. I knew it was getting pretty low, and it was one I had held during a lot of the bear market. Let me share my screen. And so NewNet, I got for some really cheap prices. It had this massive run up, and I did call it. Some of the Rainmaker family bought at these really cheap prices. It had this massive run up when the AI narrative took off. Now, NewNet is very just loosely related to the AI narrative. And it's not really so much even an AI project, just loosely affiliated, but there's a shortage of things that people could invest in the AI narrative. So anything remotely close absolutely took off this February and did tremendous numbers, which I took profits massively. Took some at higher numbers actually than it shows here. It went up to like 15 cents and came back down. And so when it was clear the rest of it was going the wrong direction, I sold the rest at like 9 cents, but missed loading up at right at this bottom. Now it's still above what I had sold at, but it made a recent run. And I like this project. I like the team behind it. I think it's a good project. The market cap is no longer as cheap as it was because it was all the way down to, 2.4 cents. It's gone up almost 3x from there, just under 3x from there. And I don't know, at this point though, it's kind of, I like buying cheap, and there are lots of opportunities that haven't recently run up. So for me, it's just a wait. It's not a bad price. I mean, the market cap's still only 32 million for a project like this. Half of its tokens are in circulation. It's still not a bad buy. It's just right now there are a few great buys. For example, there are two projects nobody is talking about. Like, I don't see it covered anywhere in all of YouTube. The prices are massively savaged. It's some of the top intellectual property in the world and massively undervalued. I created a course that's down below on that. We did the code with that. You can get 80% off that course. So that's all below, but these are two projects nobody is covering. And that's what I've been buying a lot of. And I created that course, and it was not super beneficial to me to create that course because the floor on is somewhat, let's say it moves pretty quick if there's very many people buying, which is why I think it will do tremendous when the market turns around. When people start paying attention to this, the floors can move quite fast. But I created that course because it's such a good opportunity. I wanted the family to take note of it, but I did put a paywall behind it, and that it's a course, so you have to pay for it. Money well spent, in my opinion, especially with the 80% off. If you haven't taken that course, I think you're massively missing out, because though NewNet is at a good price here, there are a few projects that are at exceptional prices. And that one was one of the ones when I saw where the prices went to, I was just so floored that the prices had gone so low. There's patterns by the same company before that went from the bear market to the bull market. And I was just like, everyone's missing this. And it's laughable to me that everyone's missing this, because you're always trying to take risks. You have no guarantees they'll work out. So I'm trying to take risks where my chances of winning are much higher than my chance of losing. And if I win, the gains will hopefully be massive, not just double my money, but do much more than double my money. So like one of the reasons I never play roulette is because you have a 48.5% chance of winning. And if you win, you only double your money. And if you lose it all. So your odds are that you lose. And if you win, you only double. I like to take bets where I feel like my chances of winning are somewhere between 60 to 95%. You almost never find 95%. Very, very, very rarely. And I wouldn't even rate this one 95%. For me, I rated it 90% chance to win. But if I win, the multiples are gigantic. So those are the kind of bets I like to take. NewNet was a good bet, especially an amazing bet down here. It was actually, I missed buying it at here. This was a very attractive, juicy price. And I just hoped it would go even a little bit lower, and it reversed on me. Oh, well, that happens. So it's just a wait for me right now. All right, let's look at IXS. And IXS is an interesting project we haven't talked about in a while, but I still like it. And I do hold IXS, and I'm just waiting on that.
So IXS, not again, the data is a bit patchy here and there, and you can see the way it's traded. It must be a very relatively small market, just because the bars just look a bit strange and the moves are quite volatile. So that aside, it was in a downward trend. It's now had quite a nice rebound, but rebounded into, as you can see, this strong resistance zone at 0.05 to around 0.06. So between 5 and 6 cents is where the resistance is. That's confirmed on the pullback that we've seen. Question is, how far will it pull back? And that is where I think things become interesting. If it pulls back, and if it keeps consolidating here, so if it stays here for a few more days, or a week or so, and then forms a compression, that would imply that we're going to see a break higher and keep this bullish move going. The fact that we would have cleared this resistance point would be a really good sign. Even on a pullback, I think back towards 2.7 cents, maybe 3 cents as support would be quite interesting. The only caveat I would have again is that there's not a lot of data on this chart, so I would be careful because of that. But overall, it's doing the right things to convert from a bear market into a bull market. So speculative, how I'd say buy, but I think I'm just going to wait. Say I would wait because I want to see what it does here, whether it pulls back or goes back up again.
Yeah, it's a risky buy point, right? So it's like buying now. The chances that it does some kind of reversal are pretty good, though there is the chance that it just continues running. I just don't like the odds enough for it to be a buy for me at this point. Though I like the project tremendously. I reviewed them and I think I did an interview many moons ago with them. Let me share this. A world.
I'm going to step out while you do that. I've just got there's something going on here. I'll tell you about it in a second. So
Yeah, absolutely. A world of new powerful investment opportunities, DeFi, security tokens, tokenization, private markets, next-gen trading, and crowdfunding decks. And they've got their own app. The interview was very informative to me. And a lot of it is like sometimes you only get so much from the websites themselves. A lot of it is getting the vision from the team themselves and who is the team behind it. And when I met the team and spoke with the team and met them, I haven't met them in person. We talked over essentially a video call, and it liked what I heard. That's why I lined them up to bring them on the channel. And they didn't pay me anything to bring them on. I just liked what they were doing. So that's why I brought them on. And it got punished by the bear market like almost everything did. But what's interesting is it's run so sharply, it blew past this previous resistance. Now it is thinly traded, so maybe it comes back for like, I don't know, some cooling before it runs more. That's often what happens. There is a chance it still continues higher, and it's been at other points much higher before. So here it was 11 cents, which would be over 2x. Here was at 37 cents. So that would be gosh, like almost an 8x from here. Yeah, interesting. Let's look at their market cap. Their market cap still only 7 million with it having run, and it ran a solid 5x straight up. So I have a hard time buying something just after it ran 5x, and that's why I have to call this a wait, because it was a riskier point to buy, but down here, but it just ran 5x. What I don't make is the assumption that just because it just ran 5x, it'll do maybe another 5x right away from there. That rarely plays out that way. It does every once in a while play out that way, but the chances, as an investor, what I'm trying to do is take odds where the odds are in my favor, and the odds wouldn't be in my favor for that. So that's why I don't go that route. All right, places you can get it. Uniswap is the easiest place to get it. It's also over on Polygon Network, so you can get it through QuickSwap. Let's take a look at our next one, which is one we haven't looked at in quite a while, and that's DDIM.
So DDIM, is that Duck DAO IME? Yeah.
Duck DAO Dime.
Okay. What could that be? Do you know what they do?
Yeah, so it is a Launchpad token, and you have to hold a certain amount of their Duck DAO Dime. So think of like the name of their project is Duck DAO, and so it's like their Dime token.
I see.
But it became really valuable in the last bear market and went to like, actually, it's only showing $97 on my chart, but it went over $100. It's pulled back 97%, and at some points even more than that. But essentially, you had to have that token to participate in some of the pre-sales. Pre-sales are going to get tokens that allow you, and Launchpad projects that allow you to get into pre-sales are going to become more valuable as the market gets hotter. And that's why you're starting to see some price action on some of the Launchpad tokens.
This for me would be, let's just check that's correct. Yeah, so October, no, that's not updated. Let's go back. I was trying to get a bit more data. I thought it might look interesting. I was going to say that looks like a sell because it was going down, and it clearly was for a bit, but now we've got this move up. But you can see how spiky it is. So I'm not sure how much I can trust these, whether these are real prices or real trades, or whether it's just incorrect prints. You know, that sometimes data in the chart can be wrong, and it's difficult to know whether it's really traded there or whether somebody's accidentally typed in the wrong price or it's been picked up wrong. But that said, this does look like a base, and given that this is a base, I don't like the fact that this is spiked here. You see, if that hadn't spiked there, if we could just rub that out and say that this was sitting just below resistance at $3.90, then I'd find that quite interesting, and I might even move to a buy. But because I don't know if it's already done the move, caught people into the trade, which is what I was saying before about if I was to buy it on the breakout, you end up chasing it, but it then could still fail. Risk reward would be much worse buying it later because the move is happening and you're chasing it a little bit. That's fine if it's an investment for the long term, but if it's a relatively shorter term trade, can make all the difference. So has it done its move and then come off again and rejected it, or is it just ready to go? That's why the right prices are quite important, or very important, when it comes to technicals. So I'm going to say it's a wait because I don't really know whether it's actually traded up there. But if it hasn't, this is quite a nice base. So it wouldn't surprise me anyway if this is trying to base out from a longer term perspective and it makes a move back up through this 390 at some point and goes higher. So I guess that kind of answers my longer term question as to whether I'd buy it or not. But it would again have to be something where I just put it in the bottom drawer and forget about it and assume it's gone to zero. But there's a few of those around, so there's others to choose from. But if it had to just be this one, then I would, you know, if it had to be this one that I needed to trade or nothing else, then I wouldn't be averse to putting a little bit of money in it just to see where it goes. So it's doing the right things technically. Personally, for me, I'd say it's a wait, but I like the way the chart is at least trying to turn around.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about DDIM is it was, if you held a certain amount, it was pretty easy to be able to get into some of the pre-sales. And the DDIM Launchpad was the first Launchpad that I participated in. I then got involved with some other ones. So I was pretty new to participating in Launchpads, and the whole idea was actually fairly new back when they launched. I have other ones that I prefer over DuckDAO that I feel like have better connections within the crypto space, so they get the better projects than DuckDAO does. DuckDAO did launch a few projects that did some pretty massive numbers, but they don't have as strong connections as some of the launchpads that are out there. So DuckDAO isn't one. I may be inadvertently still holding some DDIM. If I am, gosh, I would flip that into Spores, which I think Spores is a cheaper market cap. I think has even better connections, and it's just more off of people's radar right now. But I think Asian gaming, people are not understanding how big games and the blockchain gaming space in Asia is going to be. What I like about Spores is they have amazing connections in Vietnam, in Korea, all through the Asian markets, as well as in the US. And so they're able to get a bunch of the US projects, but a bunch of those Asian projects as well. And keep in mind that Axie Infinity was built out of Vietnam. So it's like Asia's going to be a big deal in blockchain gaming, and Asians spend more per capita than US and Canada and Western people do. And so I wish I spoke Vietnamese and Mandarin and Korean. I don't. It would be extremely helpful, because some of the games that will be the biggest games in the future might even come out of Asia, and they might not even be released in a language that I speak. I speak, English, Spanish, a little bit of French. And so the likelihood is they'll be in some Asian language and then later get translated into English, which then makes it hard to understand what's coming. But what I like about Duke and Eric, who runs Spores, is that they know the Asian community and the Asian business community super well. So I like the team behind DuckDAO. They were really cool to me and interacted with them some. But I like Spores better. I like Engine Starter better, and I like Paid, that's run by Kyle Chasse, better as far as their connections. So it's just an opportunity cost. If I put money in this, I'm foregoing other opportunities that I like more. So for me, it's actually a sell. Not that I don't believe that this will do well. I think it will do well, but just opportunity cost. All right, let's take a look at EVDC. Now, if you can't find a lot on this, that's okay. It looks like you did find a chart.
Yeah, I've everywhere I've looked.
And I thought I want to put it on here because I want to have the discussion related to it.
Okay, what is the code? Because
You found it.
yeah, but that's is that the right? Okay, that's the right chart? Is it? Okay, right. So yeah, this does not look like it's up to date though. That's the only thing. This one here. Anyway, let's look at it on this chart, which I thought, because it's all in red, I thought that was a warning about it not being updated, but it does look like we have got a current price here. It is a tricky one, I would say. I don't like the way it's trading, just simply from a volatility point of view, or where the price action's been. It's quite hard to find as well. There is a possibility that this is making a base of some kind. You've seen this low resistance up here, come back for a big sell-off, back up again, and then it's smoothly moving to the upside. So I can't get this box out of the way because it wasn't on any of the other charts. But there's a certain amount of symmetry there, where this could be forming a base and getting ready to go up. But it's not yet for me. I'd like to wait a bit longer. If everything goes into a correction from a big picture point of view, and this moves down faster, it will tell me something about the potential here. If it can hold in and maybe even move up a bit more, it's close to some tantalizing resistance, this resistance point at all those zeros and 2265. It's definitely very, if it was to double or move up aggressively, there's a lot of zeros to be taken off that. So I can see why people might want to put some coffee money in it. So technically it is trying to base. I would just be a little bit cautious at this point in time. I want to see it go up a bit more, and see what it does at this resistance area. Some I'm willing to take a punt before it's moved. Others I'd rather it's that the patterns are more complete before stepping in. I think with this one I'd rather just wait for the moment. So it's not a sell, it's just a wait, but it could look very interesting if it moves up just a little bit more.
Yeah, this, I kept it in here. This is not a token I'm interested in at all. But I frequently say 70% of the tokens out there are crap. I would actually consider this in the crap. That doesn't mean it can't have a price run. However, let's talk about the function of this, because this is simply a narrative and a tokenomics play. So about electric vehicle direct currency, EVDC is a deflationary, so in other words, a tokenomics play, and a decentralized token that will be used as a digital currency to pay for electric vehicle charging. Why do you need a token to pay for electric vehicle charging? So electric vehicles is a big narrative, right? So they're playing into the electric vehicle narrative and the token. So there are projects that come out in the crypto space that really like to play into whatever the current narrative is. But looking deeper, it's like, why do you need a token itself to pay for electric vehicle charging? Why couldn't you use ETH? So say a project launched that was cryptocurrency friendly. Why do you need some random altcoin that nobody's ever heard of to pay for something like that versus just paying in ETH? So already I don't really like the use case of the token. And I've seen a lot of projects launch, sell their tokens, raise a lot of funds saying, oh, what's the use case of your token? Oh, you'll be able to pay for our service through this token. And I've just seen over time that in general, most of those projects that launch with that narrative that you'll be able to pay for our service with this token don't do well. Now there's a few that do, and there's a few that have done really well with that, like Sandbox. What do you use Sand token for? Oh, you can buy stuff in our ecosystem with Sand. And yet Sand token has done, incredibly well from the last bear market into the bull market. Decentraland's token Mana, same thing happened, but most where they come out and say this, they don't succeed. And so I don't see any reason looking at this on why it's going to be big in the future. I just see the percentage chances of being really low, kind of like playing the slot machine. And I don't play the slot machine because the predictability is way too low. Your chance of winning, I feel, are too low, though you can have an outsized return if you do happen to win. And so that could happen with this, but these are the ones I put in the 70% that I don't want to touch. I stay completely away from. 30% of the crypto space is decent projects, but maybe the timing's wrong or the chances just aren't good enough. And I focus on the 30%, the 70% that are meme coins, that are other things. And some people say, well, shoot, my friend made money even in the project that I say I'm completely not interested in, like Shiba Inu or SafeMoon. Yes, they did. And some people do win playing slot machines. And sometimes people win the lottery, but I don't play the lottery and I don't play slot machines because the chances are just too bad, especially when we're in a space where you can take bets where the odds are stacked in your favor rather than against you. So I just don't take the chances where I feel like the odds are stacked against me. But somebody brought this up and I thought, well, I'll give my true feelings on this. This is a hell no for me. And I would, any funds I had in here, I'd move over. And that's not to say it can't do well. I mean, this doesn't even have a chart in coin market cap, but that doesn't mean it can't do well. If you did notice, the chart that Paul was looking at for DDIM didn't have the full history, that there was a better history from CoinMarketCap. And that's because it was hard to find it on some markets. So the history on CoinMarketCap went way back farther than the history on TradingView did for DuckDAO. That doesn't mean it's not a legitimate project if it doesn't have a price history, but reading through the narrative and what the use case is for the token, it's just very like trendy. Like, oh, I can pay for my electric vehicle charging, and electric vehicles are the future. So therefore, this one's probably going to do amazing. I find that when coins are going to want to come in, raise a bunch of money, end up fizzling and becoming nothing, they usually try to tie into a bunch of popular narratives, but there's not a lot of substance behind it. That's what this one reads to me as. So I stay the hell away from projects like this. But it brought up a really interesting conversation I felt was good to have. If you missed the beginning, do know that in just under an hour, we're having Manu from Dfinity join us. So Paul works with Dfinity, and Manu is essentially Paul's boss. But Manu and I were talking last week about some really big things that Dfinity is now doing and some agreements, and he's going to be sharing those. I don't think a lot of people know about these. And so they're definitely something you want to hear. There is a token for Dfinity. I'm not going to bring up and look at the token price with either Paul here or Manu, but it is something you can check out and look up Dfinity's token. And definitely stay tuned for what he's going to share. It won't be on this stream. There's a new one that starts in about 53 minutes. So with Manu, you won't want to miss that. All right, let's jump into some of our suggestions. And Justin jumped in first with a suggestion, and he said DEFX with some crying emoji. So we'll have to see what that's all about.
Yeah, no, that's the one that I won't look at, because that's ours.
So that's yours. Oh
yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
we won't be looking at that.
So the reason why is just because if it's going up, it sounds like I'm just talking the book, and if it's going down, then it's going down. So that's really just the only one. I just don't think it makes sense for me to talk about that one.
Right.
Even though I would say I'm impartial, which I would be. I mean, I genuinely would be.
You are as impartial as they come, but it's impossible to be completely impartial.
Yeah. It's just a question of the optics, really. But yeah.
Yes.
So I appreciate the ask, but unfortunately, I can't do that one.
Let's take a look at Ergo. And even though Real J Fox didn't specifically ask us to look at Ergo, I was checking out the price recently, and I was like, oh, one of in the private Discord that you get access to when you join the Patreon, some really good discussions there. And one of the Rainmaker families was mentioning Ergo, and I checked out the price, and I was like, ooh, nice. So let's, since Real J Fox brought that up, let's take a look at Ergo.
So here we have break of a downward trend line. We look at the way this has been going down. There's a kind of repeat into the structure. So it's not definitely the end of the move, but I like the fact that it's broken the trend line. That's a good first. Sorry, that's stuck there. It's a good first move to indicate that the trend might be changing. Why does it keep doing that? Let's get back to this one. There we are. Right. So we want a dotted line now because the trend line's broken. Now it's based, or potentially based, at a higher low from its main low in March 20. So that's a good sign. And there's also, there would have been a lot of support around here. I know it dipped a little bit below it, but when you have a market like this that's more thinly traded, you've got to give it a bit of room. So plenty of support that it's bounced off here. So I obviously we can see here it's just come off. So it's come off quite aggressively, sharp move up, then it's coming back down again. I want to see if it comes back and touches this line, this breakout point, and then goes up again. So I would be waiting 2 steps, one for a move back down, and then for the next move up to potentially jump on that. That's what I That's how I would like to see this moving. And it's, again, relatively short term because it hasn't formed enough of a base around here. It has done well in terms of bouncing off its support here and making a big gap between where it is now and the all-time low. So that gives us a strategy place to put a stop. So in other words, you could buy it here and put a stop below here, which I like. So that's very clean, very clear. But this area here isn't quite enough of a base itself to end this downward trend, or as yet. So I think the next strategy for it would be, if it does come down and then goes up again, that we would be seeing that sort of base, a decent base, and then taking 3 steps forward as it moves up and breaks this resistance again, or maybe around 160, then we can start talking about a move to $2.17 and maybe higher. So I can see why it was on the radar, definitely, because it's broken this trend line. It's kind of woken up from its downward trend, and it's done it quite aggressively, which is definitely something you should always keep an eye on from a technical perspective. But it's made its first move. Now we want to see whether that move sticks, or whether it's just going to fizzle all the way back down again. Now, I'd say, even though I'm waiting, I think there's a pretty good chance this is going to go up. So I wouldn't necessarily be bearish, but it's just not quite enough for me to jump in.
Yeah, Ergo is getting some traction, right? So I know Daniel Friedman, who was one of the early members of the Cardano team. I was talking to him about Ergo, and he was telling me like how well it works and why they're building. He's working on a new project that they built on Ergo instead of Cardano, and the reasons why. And so what he was articulating as someone who would know Cardano extremely well and Ergo, what the strengths of Ergo were. And it is tied to the Cardano ecosystem. So they cooperate more than compete with each other. And so it hit my radar better after talking to him. Now, you notice it didn't quite do well in the last bull market as it did in the 2017 bull market. And part of the reason is there were investing pressures still going on it, and yet it didn't have enough traction that was gaining usage. Nobody was building on it that I'm aware of back in 2021. So I do expect this next bull market that a lot of the vesting pressure will be past, as almost 73% of the tokens are in circulation. So I do expect it'll actually have a bigger run up this next time. Now, it does only have a $91 million market cap. And so what I'd be hoping for in something like this is a 30 to 50x. Now, could it do more than that? If a bunch more projects started building on it, absolutely it could. But that's what it would take. In a normal bull market without significant additional traction, probably this is a 25 to 50x play from even here where we're at. Now, it was a little bit cheaper more recently, all the way down to 87 cents. Obviously, when you buy the very bottom, it's easier to get bigger multiples. But the truth is, you almost always miss the very bottom. It's almost impossible to catch right at the bottom. So Real J Fox, thanks for bringing that up. I do like the project. We'll look at PYR, and then, yeah, I'll talk about Myria nodes versus Myria token. And I definitely have some thoughts on it. I recently released a video on it. But my math skills in that video were just so. So I've been thinking of revisiting that topic anyway, because for whatever day, I can usually do math really well in my head, and not that day. Yeah, even with the calculator I was using there, I think I even had some numbers wrong. Cool. So here's the Vulcan Forge PYR, and it is absolutely run up. So we did talk about this when it was down. In fact, Paul, we looked at this a number of times during the bear market. It has now tripled since its recent lows. That happened just a month ago in October. Let me pull up your chart and see. Cool. You've got it on TradingView.
Yeah. So this would have been clearly you've got this base. This is an amazing range. It's the best example of what a range looks like. Market stays fixed between a central oscillating point and it doesn't take out either the high or the low. But when it does it, it's a question of how it does it. So this little compression here was a clue that it might break out, but again, you have to wait for it. So you get the first breakout at $4.67, but then clearly the $5.20, which was the top of the range. And let's face it, it could have gone either way. Given that we're broadly bullish on the crypto space, it should there was a slightly more chance of it going up than down. But again, it's token dependent. This is broken out, and it's stopped again. It's trading really nicely from a technical point of view at the really key resistance point, which was support for this double top. So you see this 1, 2, and then when it breaks it, it goes down really fast. So that shows you how important this level here is. It's come back to it. So people who bought it have gone, okay, I'm going to get out and not take a loss, just get out of flat. But the fact that it's made this base for such a long period of time and has managed to get through it, I think gives it a very solid retracement point with which to bounce off. So with my speculative hat on, I'd say that this is a buy. It could be a bit more data, and there could be a bit more of a broader upward trend. But it's got to start somewhere. So I think it's a good one to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's showing a momentum swing, and it's hitting new momentum that it hasn't hit in forever. In fact, let me pull up my chart. So last time it hit these kind of numbers was way back here in May of 22, so a year and a half ago, as it was falling from this. And so it had highs of what it shows here, because often the true highs aren't fully reflected on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. So it's saying roughly $45. It's still down at $7, which means it's about 6/7 from its highs, roughly, or a little bit different than that. So what would that be? About 85%-ish down from its highs, even after this recent run. And that's its previous highs. Sometimes a project like this, I think blockchain gaming is really going to hit this coming bull market. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these projects beat their previous highs. And if so, then it can see some really good numbers. It was at $2, so it just has gone 3.5x up. And I do not chase into that. It's like, oh, shoot. We did talk about this plenty when it was cheap, though. And the first time I saw their website, I didn't really like it. It took a little bit for Vulcan Forge to grow on me. And I think there's going to be a lot of blockchain games that almost nobody's talking about that are going to do really well. This one already has pretty decent market cap at 190 million. So will it go up from here? In the short term, I have no idea. In the long term, I'll be shocked if it doesn't have some pretty good gains from here. Am I buying this one? No, I'm mostly buying cheaper market cap blockchain gaming projects and other ones where the market cap is just much, much cheaper for potentially higher multiples. This, you could consider it kind of like a blue chip within the blockchain gaming space, though. So for those that are looking for lower risk, lower volatility, though there's still plenty of risk and plenty of volatility within the space, Vulcan Forge is a good pick for that. All right, great suggestion. In DC, we will totally cover OMI form. We might have time for it. Let me jump over to Myria nodes. So Vulcan Forge for me is just a wait at this point. Not that it's not a good project. I like it a lot. I just, it's just a timing thing for me. So Myria nodes, let's pull up Myria. So Myria's nodes right now are locked in at about 4,500 US dollars. So you have to use the equivalent amount of Myria tokens to buy it. Myria tokens have shot way up. In fact, I'm interested to see what Paul thinks on the chart for Myria. So we had this nice bottom, and down here I was like, I know that there's continuous sell pressure because of the vesting to node holders, but I think it's bottoming out and it's going to turn around, and that these prices are really attractive prices. Well, that is exactly how it played out. And so since here, it's 3x. I'm not sure what I feel like the percentage chances are that it does another breakup from here or comes down. But when the prices were way down here, my thought was that the token was a better value versus the nodes. But now that the node price hasn't actually gone up at all, but yet the token is 3x up from where it was, I feel like the nodes are a better value. However, they're not cheap. It's $4,500 a month. If you end up using my referral link below, I'm more than happy to set you up with the guy that I use that manages many of the Rainmaker family's Myria nodes. Many of us in the private Discord, we had the opportunity to get into Myria nodes at the pre-sale. And so I think we did the math just yesterday in the Discord. We were talking about you get roughly 1,800 tokens per day. Yeah, 1,847 per day as of right now, or a few days ago, tokens per day for running your node. I pay the guy $17 a month that runs my node. Normally, it'll take you $20 a month just for the virtual private server to run your own node, unless you want to have a dedicated computer that always is connected to the internet and you could forego the virtual private server. I just didn't want to worry about uptime, or if I was on vacation and the power goes out and my computer gets turned off, I didn't want to worry about any of that. So I pay $17 per node, total of $357 a month to have somebody run all my nodes. But when I looked into virtual private servers myself, it would have cost me $20 per virtual private server. And so with him running the node, it's cheaper than I could even get virtual private servers myself. And it was a pretty good deal. There is a link below for anyone interested in a node. Essentially, as people get more nodes, the amount of Myria that you get per node per day goes down. Is I think they emit a certain number of Myria tokens per day, and that's split between all the people running nodes. So as more people get nodes, then you'll get less per person that's running nodes. And so that is part of the cool thing about being early in getting the nodes, is that I think only like 7 or 8% of the nodes have sold so far. And what I saw with nodes with Gala is at first they were selling, I think in the pre-sale, their nodes were $5,000. Then they went to $10,000. And then they kept raising the prices as they sold more. And they got to like $340,000 just to buy the node. At that price, it was astronomical and not worth paying. You couldn't transfer Gala nodes. You couldn't sell your node to someone else. Right now, you can't sell your Myria node to someone else, though they have talked about possibly enabling that in the future. But as of now, you can't. So what you're hoping is that the value of the tokens you get over time, that not only vastly exceeds what you paid for the node, but that puts you into a strong profitability. Just a side note here, take Cavell to one of the Comiverse episodes. The show needs some twists. That would be funny. I'll talk to Jordan about that and see if Cavell would come on. Cavell would, yeah. I mean, the OMI price. Let's look at OMI for a second, Paul. Oh, wait, before we do, I want your analysis on this token. I want to hear what you think on what you're seeing in the price charts. Do you think it's going to break further to the upside, or is this showing you a topping pattern?
It looks like it's going to go further up, I think. I like this base. I like the way it's accelerated. It's consolidated a bit here. So we could get a pullback, of course, but the trend seems to be up. So I would, for me, I would say it's a buy. The only caveat, though, and I was just looking at your chart compared to the one I've got here, your chart looked like you had more data, but actually it was just a line chart of this. And the my concern would be there's not a lot of data there, really, because you're going back April 23 to where we are now. That's really not a long time. But so you have to, that's extra sort of, you're playing in a risky space, and it's even riskier when there's not a lot of data. So with all those caveats to one side, or with those caveats understood, The chart has broken out, which is a good impulsive move, and it looks like it wants to go higher. So I'd be tempted to jump on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I suspect it's going to break higher, but I couldn't even figure out what I thought the chances were. I was thinking maybe 60% chance that it breaks the upside and 40% chance it reverses from here was the best I could place what I felt like the odds were for me.
Yeah, I don't know much about the nodes versus the actual coin price. I don't know anything about that relationship. So I've not looked at it, not studied it, not looked at the numbers. So I don't know how that interplay works. But just based on the pure token, could have a bit more upside.
Yeah, let's take a look over at OMI. OMI has been going down in price, which has frustrated a lot of people because blockchain gaming has been running. And this is one of the frustrating things about crypto, and it often leads to terrible results for people because what they often do is they'll sell what's seemingly boring at bottoms to roll it into what just went 5x. Oftentimes just in time to catch a reversal on what had just went 5x. And then what was going boring sometimes then flips around, goes the other way, and they just lose position because they had a hard time not getting shaken out. They got shaken out.
Yeah, so this is from a technical point of view, we were looking at this inverse head and shoulders, and the breakout point or the confirmation point is all the way up here. It tries to break it once, makes space, tries to break it again, comes back down. So this move down here was the retracement, and it looked like it was following the script, ready to go and then break this to complete the big base, and off it goes. As you can see, that's not what happened. The market's retraced further, which is not it's come obviously much further than I would have liked to have seen for the pattern. It's not completely dead. It can still rally from here and it would be valid. It would work. The only thing is I put my stop around this breakout point because that was where I became bullish. So this area here was the breakout. You remember the downward trend? It was like I was waiting, and then we had a little while where it was going sideways. But this first breakout point, it's come all the way to. So if I wanted to, I could give it a little bit of leeway. The trouble with giving it leeway from my point of view, not from yours, but from mine, because I'm not using any of the fundamentals with which to analyze the market, is that if it starts to go down, then I get caught and I don't know, I will not be able to make a decision. I end up holding it, and that for me isn't acceptable. So I need a parachute level. So what often technical traders might do is use what's called a time filter. So they'll say, especially with something that's a bit more thinly traded, something that's a bit more volatile like this, is if it takes 2 weeks below the level, then it's a sell. So it's really confirmed that it doesn't want to go, gives it enough room. And obviously there's a caveat that if it keeps just moving really aggressively, there's a bailout point. But we are on that level right now. So if it's going to rally, it better rally now, or it would be good if it would rally now, especially with everything else going. So from a broader perspective, is it anything to do with the Marvel universe and the mess that it's in? And if it is, that will one day be sorted out because there's too much at stake for it not to be. If its fortunes are tied to that, which it may or may not be, you're going to have to tell me whether you think that's the case, then it may take a bit more pain, but then ultimately become a turnaround when things turn around there. So for me, I'm going to have to wait. I think we should look at it next week and see whether it's managed to bounce off this level or not. But I was bullish from this breakout. I wasn't like all guns going for it. I still needed it to complete this level here. This trigger point, the neckline as we call it, of the head and shoulders. So I'm going to just hold it for now and just wait. I want to wait just a bit longer before saying I'm bailing out, and we'll see. And the other thing is, from my point of view, is I don't mind selling something and then buying it back, even if it's much higher, because I'm doing it just to protect capital, and that's just the way I see it. So,
Yeah,
so for me, it's a way it could still turn around, and it should be doing it soon.
I would imagine it is. I imagine once to form a double bottom, there's in the bear market, people go through exasperation, especially as other things are pumping. This frequently tends to augment these downturns, like you're seeing here with Ecomi, in that people get impatient and they start selling. I'm going to flip to my chart because right here, they just, when it starts going down and other things are pumping, they're just like, oh no. And FOMO is real. And as human beings, we have a fear of missing out. So, what most new people do is they sell what's going down like this to roll into something that's already 5x. Now, it's not that that can't work out for you. I just don't like the odds of that. And for them, it's usually more of a short-term trade. They just want to see some price action in what they're holding because we all want to feel like winners. And when we're holding something that's going down and we're not holding what's going up, well, we feel like losers. And that feels terrible because we have nothing to brag about because we're looking for confirmation from our friends. As you become numb to that because you become an experienced and unshakable crypto investor, what I often do is I take profits on what just 5x and I roll them. So I do the opposite of what they're doing and I roll it into what has just gotten more attractive. And so OMI has gotten way more attractive and I really like it at these prices. I don't see a legitimate reason why OMI's not going to make it not only into the next bull market, but for the next 10 years. And Marvel and Disney are some of the big intellectual property brands that OMI has released some digital collectibles about, but they're not the only ones. In fact, with the recent talk with David, afterwards, he said, look, Marvel has been a great partner and Disney a great partner. We have other huge intellectual property coming. It was like, wow, what could be on the same scale or even bigger than Marvel and Disney? Well, there's only a few out there that could be. And so that's cool. And some people are scared because Disney's now releasing some more collectibles on the Flow blockchain. They're digital pins, which I don't know what, I don't know. I never was a pin collector and I have no idea what digital pins will do. Or I don't even have an idea what they look like. But some people are like, oh no, VV no longer has a Disney exclusive. They haven't actually had a Disney exclusive for a little while now as Crypto has released some stuff, some of the Star Wars stuff. And so like Disney, they're going to keep, probably at some point they'll make their own. The bigger question is, because VV had a lot of first appearances, a lot of these Disney and Marvel and Star Wars characters, will the first appearances have the biggest value in the future? That's what I'm hoping. That's often the case. It's not always the case. So even if they lost Disney entirely, would VV still do well? Probably. I think so. Disney and Marvel, great partners. I don't see why they would lose them. But they do have also other intellectual property coming, and they're the biggest digital collectible space. Their token is just suffering because it's a paired market. People get impatient, and they tend to dump the lows. So I take the reverse approach and I sell other things that have gone up a whole bunch and I diversify into things that are down like this. And OMI is really juicy right now. I would love it if it came right back down to these previous lows, but I suspect it won't quite hit those numbers and that we will have a higher low and then probably the base is in. We'll see how that plays out. So yeah, great question. It was fun for Lori Brenner to jump in here. She does have a huge Twitter account. Queen VV is what she goes by, and she does some amazing interviews on her Queen's Court space. She does Twitter spaces on Wednesdays. So if you haven't checked those out, she has a very high level professional business job. And so she asks phenomenal questions and hard hitting questions. She did an interview with David Yu from Ecomi a while ago, and I listened to the questions she asked him. She asked him some really hard questions. That was good. Boost777 said, yes, I should collab with Cavell. What's interesting is like Cavell takes the opposite approach from me. So I'm a little bit dry and sometimes boring because I'm on the analytical side. Cavell is actually much more entertaining. I'm more on the analytical side, investment side. So my whole background, like 25 years in investing experience. And so I come from a very analytical side. Cavell has almost no investment background whatsoever. So we're actually like complete polar opposites. He's flipped bearish on OMI and VV, I don't know, like 9 months ago and stuff. And I don't know what's going on with him. I just know that he doesn't have very much investment experience, but he is entertaining. Something I wish I was like being more entertaining with him. And the YouTube algorithm absolutely loves Cavell because I unsubscribed from his channel like a year and a half ago because I didn't find enough substance there for me, though his entertainment value was high. I felt like sometimes in a 30-minute video, I got 3 minutes of like actual analysis, and that just wasn't a high enough ratio for me. So I unsubscribed, and yet for like months, YouTube would put his videos first on my home screen all the time. I was like, this guy is a freaking genius. Something he's done, like YouTube, like I unsubscribed from him, and yet YouTube would show his stuff to me every single day. And I was just like, wow, that's pretty cool. He's figured something out there. That would be fun. I would love to invite him on and have a debate with him. Have to see how it goes. He is definitely entertaining, and something I wish I could definitely learn from him on that. Cool, Paul. I think that's, well, we had one more question, one more to look at. I think we got a second to look at form.
Okay. I'll just pop that on. I've got my dog here, so just this is Mossy. So Mossy says hello.
Now we can see the face behind the bark.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's should make a Mossy coin, I think. So form against US dollar. Let's have a look. Now I seem to remember we did look at this, didn't we? A while back. Yeah. Okay. So very interesting. I'm glad we kept it in and we had time to look at it. The setup here is a double bottom. So we've got a downward trend. And so the trend is going downwards. Again, this price action you can see is very spiky, which is telling me I'm not sure whether it's the actual chart or whether it is actually that volatile. If it's that volatile, of course, the caution level gets ramped up a little bit. But this is making a double bottom. That's 1, 2, and then it hasn't completed it yet. But when and if it does, it will make quite an interesting pattern. It will also be reversing this previous downward trend. You can see the moving averages are down, but getting ready to cross. So if it gets through this 001921 level, which is between the breakout point for the double bottom and this really solid resistance point, you see how many times it leaned on that before it then gave way. So that is really key. But I think it's trying to break out. So I would rate it a buy. I think a breakout would it would be better to wait for the breakout. But if I put my speculative hat on, I'll say, get in. I would get in before and see what happens. And if it doesn't go within a few weeks, I would just have to bail out. But very interesting one. I'm glad you requested it.
This is an interesting one. So I've accumulated apparently 1.5% of the total circulating supply. The market cap is so low, it's not hard to do that. But their fully diluted supply is much, much, much higher. Still, like even their fully diluted market cap is just under 1.4 million, with their market cap at 111,000. Now, this project has absolutely been devastated by the bear market and by vesting. And will they survive? I don't know. I hope so, because I refuse to sell my tokens at this price, and I put some extra coffee money into it. And it's amazing at these prices how much you can accumulate with just coffee money. Coffee money is money that you would have spent on coffee, but you throw in, and if you lose it, you lose it. But what's cool about when it hits these kind of prices, if it went to a $12 million market cap, that is 100x from here. If it went to $112 million market cap or $120 million market cap, that is 1,000x from here. So will they survive? I don't know. I got some rumblings that maybe there was some discord among the team members, and I don't ever love to hear that as confirmed. Is it confirmed? No. I can't say I know what's going on. I've tried to have the team on to do an interview and been completely unsuccessful at that. And I don't like that. That's not you. That's usually a red flag to me. So I would put this in the high risk category. But from here, if they survive into the bull market, it's really easy for things to flip around. And just as money comes into the bull market, them just catch some momentum and hit a market cap of somewhere between 12 million to 120 million. And if that happens, then the gains are tremendous. So high risk, high reward. Justin says, don't chase green candles. Yes. Real J Fox. Someone needs to dig Tap's trades, also back from the dead. I would love to talk to Tap's trades. He was getting married, and just often, a lot of times, the bear market washes people out. Even if they don't sell their positions, I doubt he sold his positions, but just making content does not pay well until your channel gets really, really big. And so, I'm sure he was producing content and a major investment in time for no financial gain. And especially as he's getting married, like usually your girlfriend or wife has a problem with you putting in that much time to something that's not bringing any money into the household. And it can be hard to justify even to yourself, even if you don't have a girlfriend or a new wife. So I'm not surprised with what happened. Taps is a brilliant guy. I think he's really good on the analytical side. I like him a ton. Would love to see him back and would love to have him on. I'll probably reach out to him and invite him to come on because I really, really like Taps trades. Cool. All right. I think we made it through all our suggestions. Do note that, Manu from Definity is joining me in just, 18 minutes. So definitely catch that. There are some exciting things that he's going to be talking about that they're doing that I think you're going to want to hear about. Paul, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. And hope you enjoy the video with Manu. I'm sure you will. I'm sure it's going to be really interesting. And we'll see you next week.
All right. We'll see you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you might want to check out the DFX token. I want to say that. But look at the price, do an analysis on what you think about it. Obviously, I'm biased towards it because I've really gotten to know Paul and Manu over the past almost 2 years now. And I like where the price is at. Also, there is that course down below. If you haven't taken that course, I highly suggest it. When I sell through the current coupon codes, the price will change. So right now it's 80% discount. As I go through the different coupon codes and they sell out, then essentially the discount coupon code becomes worth less. And so you end up paying a higher price. It is $90 for the course. With the current discount, I think it ends up being about $18 for the course. There are 2 projects nobody's talking about, massively underpriced in my opinion. In my opinion, I haven't found a better risk to reward for what I like, and it is where a bunch of my money has been going the past number of weeks. And when I saw prices where they had gone to a month ago, because nobody was talking about it, so I thought I'm going to check on where prices are at because nobody's talking about it. Everyone's dead silent on these 2 projects. And look at the price. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this sooner? I did happen to catch it like right at the bottoms. I was like, oh my gosh, and hurried up and created that course. You're missing out if you haven't taken it. You'll see what I mean when you take the course. Bump is pumping. That is worth looking at. I am going to pull that up really quick. Bumper, I was really pleased with the interview we just did with them on where things are going. And often, wow, it is pumping. People, geez. So I was calling this an amazing price, and I did accumulate more Bumper at these prices. It's all the way back up to 6 cents. But oftentimes people get in total despair when it was recently 10 cents and it came down to, 3 cents. it did break under, I think, a little bit under 3 cents for a minute, and now has doubled from there. But even at this price, if Bumper is able to hit their use case, their market cap is currently at 4.2 million. If they're able to hit their use case and get some really, really big traction, this is a project that could be in the billions or tens of billions of dollars of market cap if their use case really comes around and people start using them. Cool. Great call, DC. All right. Yeah, I mean, don't chase green candles. Exactly. Biggest advice I can give in crypto is I like to buy when it's boring and I don't chase green candles. And those rules have worked out pretty good for me. Not always. I could have bought OMI at when it hit 0.25 cents and it went to, I could have bought more OMI because the truth is I had some. Could have bought more at 0.25 cents, but it just run up tremendously. And it did end up going to 1.4 cents. But I don't chase green candles. And I did roll that money into other things that hadn't pumped yet. So it's not like I didn't make money with that. Cool, everyone. Thank you for joining us. See you all in a minute. Join us in 14 minutes with Manu. I think you'll like it. Here we go. I'm going to exit with our Rainmaker wrap. Enjoy.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit, right before you could, was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss, cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. They go with the hate, say the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.